Hey guys, Sherman here, back with another deck profile, this time featuring the new Oofmi special Ayame Wombo combo deck. Now, I've been testing this deck like a madman since I first discovered it on Sunday. I've been testing it through my flu just because, I just think this deck is crazy. I really want to get as much testing done as possible and get out a really good, solid first deck list that people can really experiment with and jump into trying their own list out and stuff like that. I just want something really good, a really solid foundation, for the community to get in on this deck. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, if you guys have missed the news, go ahead, you can check out, I did a combo video on this channel. I've linked the Honest Weiss channel where this first was released, and it's all over Twitter. I'm pretty sure a number of community members have already been talking about this combo. So what it is a 6 attack combo at any time after 0-6 if you have 4 Ayames in the deck. And so yeah, it's a pretty explosive, honestly really crazy, especially if you can do it as early as level 1. Your opponent basically takes 2 turns worth of damage before they can even respond, which makes this very, very strong. And yeah, so I've built several decks around it. I've been really playtesting and iterating on it, and this is kind of like the conclusion of my first intensive round of testing. Obviously, I'm going to continue testing from this, and I'm going to continue updating the deck and making changes, but this is kind of like my first round of testing, and I've come to a place where I'm pretty comfortable with this deck. I would definitely bring this deck to a tournament. I think it would actually do quite well. This is probably going to be a pretty long deck profile because this is a very unusual deck. I have to explain a lot of stuff, and this deck is just like really flexible. You can build it a lot of different ways and personalize it and tailor it to your own playstyle and stuff like that. So I'm gonna be talking about a bunch of different options and tech choices and stuff like that. So I'm sorry if this goes on for very long. This is just crazy, let me tell you. So we're just gonna get started, and yeah, let's just take it from here. All right, first off, at level 0 we need stability, so we are playing 5 aquas, or 5 different copies of aqua, 4 of the blue one, the original one, and 1 La Plus. Now the ratio here is pretty important. You want 4 of the blue aqua because you want to level blue at level 0 or at level 1, so you have experience for the Ayame condition. Her power condition is dependent on your level, and as early as level 1 she is 6'5", which is relevant, and you do want to have her not be that easy to remove. So generally speaking, you do want to level blue, and that's why we have 4 of the blue aqua. And the 1 La Plus is we actually do need yellow here, and this is basically one of the best 5th color fixes because it also fixes itself into color. And it's always nice to have good like 3-5 attackers. Also, like, this deck plays really aggressively at level 0, so you're perfectly fine just putting them to the side and side attacking. You're just going for damage and hand advantage, and you're just constantly pushing. And so not only do we have 5 copies of the aqua effect, we also have the 4 Soras that are part of our combo, but obviously we just max it out because it's also a plussing advantage card at level 0. We play these down. We don't need to hold them because they actually just get us other copies of itself and the other pieces of our combo. So pretty frequently I'll play the Sora down, and then when it dies I'll use the Sora to spawn another Sora, or if I know I'm going to be at level 1, I'll use the Sora to spawn the Marine if I don't have the Marine rotation, and then I can use a way to salvage the Sora to get the Sora back. So yeah, this card is just really good. Like, there's no reason why you would play less than 4 in the deck. And I am also playing 4 copies of the Marine. I've been playing with 2 to 3. Like 2-3 is fine, but then you just don't see it as much. And it's not even a bad card. It like attacks for 3k. So recently I've just decided to up it to 4. Like, just maximum consistency for the combo. Like, we just want to be able to hit this combo without really trying too hard. And the easier it is to hit the combo, the better it is. Like, there was one game I think I was playing 3 Marine, and all 3 were like at the bottom of the deck, and I was like, this is just not very fun. So yeah, just max it out. It's not a bad card anyways. It's a 0. We are playing 3 copies of Rene. I have played builds without Rene. I've recently been playing Rene because Rene allows us to mulligan aggressively. So generally speaking, in our mulligan, we're keeping combo pieces, which is the Marine and the Sora, and we're trying to mull as much other stuff away so we can draw into climaxes and because we definitely want to be able to play climaxes early, and also just to get like more stability pieces. For example, we want to get the aqua, and just so we can start building our hand, and we also want to find stuff like Roboco and free fresh options just in case we trigger too many Ayame. So because of that, we want to discard aggressively, but if we don't have the Rene, sometimes it's really hard to discard and mulligan aggressively if we feel like we don't have easy access to waiting room. So I've been playing Rene at 3 copies, so that, like, for example, like if we open a Roboco and we don't open Sora or Marin, then we want to discard the Roboco, but then at the same time we do want to also be able to get the Roboco back just in case we trigger or clock or draw Ayame. So yeah, I think Rene can be like anywhere between 0 and like 4, but I think 4 is probably excessive. All right, 2 copies of Roboco. I think this is a pretty good number. You could go up to 3. I think I would stop at 3, but you definitely need 2. Ayames are going to get triggered and leave your deck. Roboco is the best way to get them back because it doesn't cost any extra resources. She also bounces back to hand when you play a Climax, and you're going to play a lot of Climaxes in this deck. So yeah, I think the Roboco is just a good option here. I am playing 2 copies of the Haachama. This one was a 3 of in some of my testing lists, but I bumped it down to 2 because it's pretty easy to get to anyways. Like, we can summon it off of Sora, we can grab it off of Rene and stuff like that. This is just a really easy way for us to get hand advantage back, especially on the combo turn, because on the combo turn we can use the time machine effect. We send her to memory, and then we spawn our full field of Ayames, and then on the next turn when they kill some of the Ayames, we can spawn her back from memory. So she basically is one of the easiest ways to plus on the combo turn, but we can also use her to plus before that. She also pumps power, so it's like pretty good. We don't really need too many copies of this, but just once we get one into rotation, it's like pretty easy to keep her there. All right, Mio, Drop Search, a really excellent card. A double Drop Search, so it helps us get to our pieces, and then the top check 2, and we can mill the both cards, or we can leave them there and rearrange. It's really helpful for knowing if we're gonna trigger Ayames, because if we know we're gonna trigger Ayame, then it's probably not likely for us to go for the actual combo. So one thing that we can do is, if we have extra hand or resources, we can play her and then do the top check first, and then if we see the Ayames, we can then do the Drop Search to try to get a shuffle so that we don't trigger the Ayames. This is if we're, have extra resources and stuff like that. But it also just helps us establish our pieces, which is really good. And then for the one-ofs, 1 Haachama level 0, 1 Flare Drop Salvage, and 1 Ina Climax Swap. These are all pretty useful on their own. Extra mill, grabs climaxes, bounce, which is really important because in the late game we have to play around stuff like memory punch or other annoyances, but also drop salvage gives us access to the waiting room, and then climax swap is always good. And then this also has the top check 2, which helps us know if we're going to be triggering Ayames or not. And there's a bunch of other utility cards you could be playing instead of these. These are just the ones that I've tested with that I've really enjoyed. Now, I think this is my entire 0 line. So I think one question people are going to ask is, why am I not playing the Crony, which is a free fresh? Because it seems like it's a very obvious thing if you want the Ayames to be in deck. And what if you milled more than 2 Ayames? The Roboco's not enough, right? You would want some on-demand way to free fresh. Well, the problem with Crony is that not only do you have to play her from hand to stage, you also have to pay 1 and then discard an additional card to do the free fresh. And then eventually when you do the combo, you're going to be playing over her. So she actually is a this is like a -2 to get like the 3rd or the 4th Ayame in which case, like, it's better just to play double Roboco if you can, or if you can't do double Roboco, then like I don't think it's worth -1 stock, -2 hand to get like the 3rd or 4th Ayame in. Maybe you just don't attack the 3rd or 4th time. It's actually not the end of the world. But I actually think if you play this card just to force the issue, especially at level 1, like maybe this is better at level 3, where like you kind of need to go for lethal or whatever. But at level 1, just to force the issue, like -1 stock, -2 hand, I don't know if it's worth it. So that's my thought on this. I don't think it's bad, but like I don't think you don't need to play this, and I don't like it, so I'm not playing it. But you could play it. You could play it like over one of these slots. I've also tested Watame. Watame is basically just Haachama, except not for the climaxes. These are just like in a pile, like on the floor. Like I've just been swapping them in and out. I've been testing Subaru Climax Swap for the Mill 3, but then I realized Top Check 2 is better. But this is yellow, so it does come up for color condition. Yeah, so these are all different other utility zeros I've been testing. You guys can also try different ones too. These are just like Choco is probably a good idea. Like the Mill 3 drop salvage. Like if you don't like the flare, you can play the Choco. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff you could do. So yeah, level 0 game. All right, level 1. Unsurprisingly, we are playing 4 copies of the Ayame. She is the star of the show. Great card. We're playing 3 copies of 1-0 Polka. This can be up to 4. You don't really need 4. Like 3 is already plenty. You'll like see it often enough. And then you know, it's just hand advantage. Like this summons out anything that you see on the board here, and usually that's like very profitable. Like summons out Sora, we kill the Sora, then it's like wow, +1. Summon out Haachama, Haachama gets a kill, goes to memory, wow, +1. Summon out Roboco, we play Climax, Roboco goes back to hand, wow, +1. So like Roboco, like Polka just gives us so many pluses in this deck, and it's just, yeah, card's amazing. I am playing Brainstorm, so you're wondering like, where's my Brainstorms? I am playing the spiciest Brainstorm choice. I am playing 1-0 Haachama Brainstorm. Now the reason why I'm playing Haachama Brainstorm here in this deck is because you don't actually need your Brainstorm at level 0. You like don't want to commit your Brainstorm to board at level 0 because you're gonna be playing over it with once you do the Ayame combo at level 1. So like playing your Brainstorm early is actually an int because you're gonna lose that Brainstorm that you play early, and you're not really trying to mill your deck that early in the game, because if you mill your deck and you mill too many Ayames, then you can't do the combo. So if you don't need the Brainstorm at level 0, Haachama Brainstorm actually gives us the ability to use the counter effect in hand, and there's 2 good targets for the counter. The first one is Ayame. Ayame is 6-5, counter up to 8, so that potentially can actually win a few lanes. This is especially helpful when we aren't trying to like do the Wombo again until level 3, and then we just kind of protect the Ayame and play around the Ayame for the mid game, and that helps us like get backhand advantage and still be pretty aggressive. The second thing is at level 3 I'm actually playing the Haachama level 3 combo, and then she gets 1000 per every other when you use a startup, and so if you use the 1-5 backup, she'll become 14-5 on that lane, which is like huge, right? So like it's nice to have a backup that's also a Brainstorm. This just basically fills a bunch of different roles in this deck and allows us to not like it combines a bunch of effects that I want into one card, so we don't have to, you know, play those cards in other slots, and we can be very slot efficient and play a bunch of really good utility. I have tested other Brainstorms though, so like I've tested Muna Brainstorm. Muna's really good if you want like extra filter and hand fix. I've tested Xion Brainstorm. Xion Brainstorm is like really strong because it's Brainstorm 5, and yeah, it's just amazing. And also has a level swap ability. And so when I was playing Xion Brainstorm, I was playing Subaru, and what I would do is I would level Aqua, and Aqua's Gen 2, and then I would swap the Aqua for Subaru like in the late game so I could get yellow. That was back when I was like more on yellow because I was playing like Watame. But I'm off of Watame now. But like, yeah, so back then I would be playing the Xion package, and then if you play Xion, you actually play this Aqua for utility as well. So I'm just showing you, like, I've been testing all of this, and there's like a bunch of different stuff that you can do, and they're all like not bad, right? But this is kind of the list that I've settled with. I've enjoyed the most. Yeah, but please continue testing and be creative. Like, there's just so much cool stuff you can do with this deck. Okay, so finisher, Haachama. This might be kind of surprising to people because Haachama's basically never played in any other deck. Why would you play Haachama finisher? Haachama finisher is the best for this specific deck because it doesn't require discarding hand for the finishing combo, and it actually gives you back a hand when you use the finishing combo. So most Hololive finishers require a discard of hand, like some way, shape, or form. And the only ones that don't are Haachama, Mio, and Roboco. I'm pretty sure those are the only 3 that don't require discarding hand for the actual Climax combo. Roboco requires a reverse, which is very difficult to get, I think. Mio is not actual damage, it's just the top check to the Mocha effect, which doesn't seem that value. And Haachama is actually just a burn 1, so it's just an instance of damage. I'm pretty happy with that. In addition, Haachama heals, and one thing about this deck is like I want to be able to do the Ayame combo through refresh, because that's sometimes the best time to do it. Like if all 4 are in wing room and you're close to end of deck, you want to do it through refresh. However, if you do it through refresh, that's 1 damage, and then the Sora will also hit you for 1 damage. So if you're like close to if you're close to 3-6, you actually could kill yourself by doing it. And the heal basically allows you to heal down so that even if you start the turn at 3-6, like after clocking, you can double heal down to 3-4 and then refresh Sora and you're back at 3-6 and you're still not dead and you can still do the whole wombo combo. So I think healing is good. You can play something like Marin, because like Marin will replace herself with her on-play effect, kind of ish. But then like, so like the difference between like Marin and Haachama. So Haachama is double Haachama with the Marin attack and then triple Ayame is at the start of main phase you need 6 cards in hand and 5 stock. With if you want to do double Marin, this Marin and then triple Ayame, you only need 3 stock at the start of main phase, but you need 10 cards in hand. You need 4 more cards than if you played Haachama. So it's like, even though you have an easier time getting the climax, like it's so much harder to get the other cards, right? Like 10 cards at the start of main phase means you can't even, like, if you go into, like, if you end your turn with 7 cards, draw to 8, clock draw to 9, you still need to get an extra card somewhere. Like you have to hit a brainstorm or something. So I'd rather just play the Haachama because like the floor is really low, which makes it very accessible in my opinion. Yeah, and it's also on door, which is great. So we're playing 2 copies of Xion. Xion's the reason I moved off of Watame, because originally I was playing Watame and I was playing the Nene for the alarm free fresh, because I thought this was going to be pretty good at level 1 as well. But then I realized that Xion also has alarm free fresh, and her on play effect at level 3 is top check 3 rearrange, and then you can bounce something. So it's basically the Watame effect, except I don't actually have to hit. But it also gives me the free fresh alarm, and it also gives me the top check, so I know if I'm going to be triggering Ayames or not, right? So it's like, yeah, Xion just ultimately just became the best option. So yeah, so we're playing her at 2. You could play her at more actually. You could play her at 3, I think, if you can find the room. I don't know if I can find the room personally, but I think 3 is probably fine. Like that doesn't seem too bad. And she's just like really good finishing, or she's like really good for the end game and the mid game of this deck. So kind of OP. And then we're playing 1 each of the stock swap and the TD Haachama. So yeah, funny thing, you can do the Ayame thing with the TD Haachama too, because Haachama starts at it's like attack phase, right? So you do like, I think it's like 1 Haachama and then 1 Sora. So this is 3 stock. So like play this for 2 stock, enter attack with 1 stock, kill everything, Sora dies. She really died there. Okay, she dies, use the effects, summon Ayame back row, discard 2, summon 1 to each front row attack. And it's like you do Haachama Ollie, except you don't even need the climax combo. So like, yeah, so you're not directing for 4 or stuff like that. It's actually really good to like close out games. Like if you like after you do the whole combo and you're like low on resources, you can still do this to like get a little bit of extra oomph. And it's also really good if your opponent has like a huge board that you just can't out. Like if you just normally attack, you like play into rest counter or money counter or whatever, you just play this, blow up their board, but you still get 3 attacks. So yeah, I think it's good as a one of. You don't want to go for it for your main game plan, because the double Haachama into the Mari into 3 Ayame attacks actually just kills like from pretty far away. It's like basically if they're level 3, they're guaranteed dead. Like it's like very high chance that they're dead. So you'd rather go for that every game if you can, but this is a good like plan B. All right, so obviously we're playing 4 copies of the Haachama Climax. But as you can see, there's no secondary climax combo in this deck. We don't really have room for a secondary climax combo. So what secondary climax should you play? And you actually can play basically anything, right? But I'll walk you through the options, and I'll kind of talk a little bit, because there's a bit of theory here. So in theory, standby is a good climax in terms of establishing consistency with the combo, because standby means you don't need Sora like on the field or in your hand. You can use the standby to standby out the Sora into the back row, and then you can use the Marine to kill the Sora in the back row, and then you get your full combo off. So it kind of replaces a combo piece. But the problem with standby is that it doesn't give soul. It doesn't give global soul. And the whole point of this combo is that when you summon out the Ayames and they get to attack, it's like you get an extra turn. But if you play the climax or the global soul, then the Ayames that you summon out will also get that global soul. So it's like on the second turn of attacks, you know, if you imagine the Ayame attacks are your second turn, it's like you played a climax on that turn as well, even though it was just the same climax that you played like for the first attack, for the first 3 attacks, right? And so if you play a standby, you're not actually giving value to the Ayame attacks, which is the biggest problem. And so the same thing with like the stock souls from Waiting Room from the Gen 4 TD is like you play this, you give the first 3 attacks the soul, but then when the Ayames get summoned out, they don't get soul. So ideally you want something that can give global soul so that your Ayames get a bunch of value from their attacks as well. And so obviously 8 door is a really good option. I think with 8 door you also get access to playing Anya. You actually can play Anya even with 4 door because you just use Anya to search out the Haachama door, but it's way better if you have 8 door, and especially if you like, because then you can always get a door out of your deck, right? And then if you're gonna play 8 door, I think Ollie door is probably one of the better doors to play, just to bait your opponent to thinking you're playing Haachama Ollie or something like that. But you can also try to find a door that has like a combo. You can play door with that. Another good option is Pants. So the reason why I like Pants is because, yeah, when you trigger a Pants, you get another Climax back, and this deck does want to play pretty aggressively, so you're just constantly playing Climaxes down, pushing damage. It's also blue, which means that when you level the Aqua at level 1, you have the color you need for Climax, because you don't actually need red at level 1, because you're never playing the Ayames from hand. You're summoning them from Sora. And the only cards you're actually playing from hand at level 1 are like the Polkas and the Haachamas, but you're not always playing the Brainstorms, especially if you haven't done the Wombo yet. And then the Polkas you can always just like save. Like it's not a big deal if you don't play them. So like blue Climax is actually easier to play at level 1 than a red Climax from my experience. So Pants actually fits quite well. And then and you can play whatever pants you want. The kind of the spicy pants I would say is actually if you play Lami pants, because you actually could play like a 1 or 2 of Lami in this deck. Because Lami is, the Climax combo isn't that good, but it also doesn't really scale off of like triple combo. Like triple Lami is garbage, but 1 Lami gets you like 2 cards back. So that's actually potentially playable. Like you could play Lami at like 1 or 2 and you would still get a decent amount of value, right? So you can try like Lami pants. But the real answer to what the best Climax to play is actually 2 soul. And so this is not legal, by just to clarify, these are the English Lunar New Year 2023 English PR 2 souls. I don't have any other PR like generic PR 2 souls. The ones in Japanese are both red. It's like the Ayame one, and then there's like the new one that I don't have. And obviously the rest of my deck is Japanese, especially, you know, Hololive Set 2 isn't out in English yet. So technically the deck that I'm showing off right now, it's illegal right now, but by the end of August, this will be a legal deck. It is actually better in English than in Japanese because, again, JP doesn't have a blue 2 soul, they only have red 2 souls. And as I explained earlier, blue is a better color for playing at level 1. Once this comes out in English, I'm definitely going to be able to play this deck with the Ayames and all the English set 2 cards. 2 soul is just crazy because in your first deck, you're not very compressed, and suddenly you're just taking 6 swings of 3 or more damage. It's utterly ridiculous. You also get really cool things where, like, if you rush your opponent to level 1, they kind of set up a level 1 game already. You have the option to side for 2 and like front for 3. If they set up like Alice board, you can actually side the Alice boards for 1, deny memory counter, and then summon out the Ayames, and then the Ayames can like front for 3. 2 soul just gives you so much more flexibility and power. And the 2 soul trigger, like when you hit it, and if it's like, again, this deck is very aggressive, and like when it sticks, and it's just money. And hand advantage, surprisingly, is just not actually that big of an issue. I think Polka by itself just represents so much value. You're running 5 Aqua, you're running 4 Sora, you do get a ton of value throughout the early mid game, and then your late game, because you're playing Haachama, again, you only need 6 cards in hand and 5 stock at the start of your main phase. So this is after draw for turn and after clock draw 2. 6 cards in hand, that's very low. So like you don't actually need that much to access the powerful finisher of this deck. And so yeah, I think playing 4 2 soul is pretty good. You can also go for a mix. You could do something like 2 pants, 2 2 soul if you can't get all 4 copies of the 2 soul, or you know, whatever you want. Like it's very, very flexible here. So yeah, but I just definitely think that 2 soul is the way to go. I hit somebody from level 0 to level 3 in a practice game because I had Tuso and they were out. So yeah, that's in one turn, obviously, right? So yeah, that's the deck. I'm sorry that that this deck exists. It's actually, it doesn't feel very fair to get 6 attacks off at level 1 when your opponent can't do anything about it. I really do hope that the Sokka from Avatar Last Airbender gets fixed, because that seems even more egregious than this deck. Because this deck is annoying because you have to set it up with like a bunch of other different cards just to get like this 1-0 that's otherwise not very good. That Sokka is just good on its own, and like, yeah, so I really do hope that card gets fixed. I guess it does cost stock though, which is worse than this. The Ayame doesn't cost stock, which is, I guess that's why the Ayame is kind of good. But yeah, if you have any questions, which I imagine there's probably plenty of questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer. The deck log will be provided in the description as soon as I can get it. And yeah, go ahead and try this. Like, you're probably gonna mess up the first few times, and that's okay. In fact, this is probably one of the best candidates for a play-by-play. I will be making a play-by-play video for this deck. It will be after Bro, once I'm less busy. So you can see how I would pilot this deck, kind of how I go through the motions. But until then, just like build this and like try it out, mess around with it. You're gonna lose a bunch, you're gonna like stumble and like, but then the moment you get it, the moment you get the Sora, Marine, other attacker into 3 Ayame with the Climax turn, you will see the light. You will see Weiss in a whole new world. This is just, you will be a changed player of this card game. Like, it is crazy, let me tell you. So I hope you guys do really enjoy that. I have gone on for quite long, so I will be wrapping up here. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, just let me know in the comments below. I look forward to talking about this with all of you guys. Look forward to seeing what you guys come up with, and look forward to seeing what Japan thinks about this. We crazy Westerners have cooked up something truly outrageous this time. All right, that's it for this time. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.